Question: what's renting space in your mind? And if you're like, I don't know what that means, well, do you have any complaints about your life or your world, such as maybe the world seems like it's in chaos, or you're constantly overwhelmed, or maybe you feel alone even when you're surrounded by people you're supposed to love and appreciate or care about? Or maybe you're just wondering, who are you really, or what's your purpose? If you have any of these questions or concerns, that means you've allowed some ideas to be renting some space in your mind, and it might be time to evict them. So that's what we're going to talk about on today's episode. Let's begin. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. So, what's renting space in your mind? So this might be something you haven't ever thought about before, but this is why you listen to the show, is for ways of seeing, doing, perceiving, living that are different than you've done and other people may have done. And a lot of people just go, I got a problem, I got to solve the problem. Yet how you view the problem is sometimes more important as part of the process of actually resolving it than just going, I have a problem, and then going and just grinding away. That's the old way of doing things. Now is a beautiful, wonderful time to do things in a brand new way. That's what a lot of people get wrong, is they just think okay, I just got to work on the solution, and I just got to work harder, and I got to grind it out and hustle until the problem goes away. Yet you've probably noticed that you've probably worked harder than most people you know, harder than most people realize, even harder than you actually give yourself credit for. Yet you still have these challenges, you still have these complaints, you still have these things that are just these things aren't working. This isn't how it's supposed to be. And that's the key to knowing that you are leasing space within your mind, and you are the owner of your mind, and it's time to evict these ideas that are horrible. You didn't screen these ideas. A lot of people think that just because an idea or a thought or a belief is within their mind, that it's theirs. Yet that really couldn't be further from the truth. A lot of what you believe, a lot of what you want, a lot of what you find true isn't actually true, and it isn't even your choice. It was what you decided to take on at a time in your life when it was take on whatever is being given to you, or maybe you don't get taken care of at all, because I'm talking about the time when you were a wee babe, a child. And again, a lot of things as a human being, what we start, we continue to do, just because if it worked yesterday, then it'll probably work today, because again, I'm here today and I didn't die yesterday, so let me just keep doing what I've been doing. That's how habits form. And just because habits have worked in that way, that doesn't mean that they actually work for us and our life. And you're here listening to this show because you want something that works for you, your life, and what you're meant to be doing with that life on this planet right here, right now. What worked even a year ago, especially 5 years, 15 years, 100 years ago, most of it doesn't work anymore. And that's what you're confronted with now, is recognizing that what worked yesterday, what might have worked for your parents, what even might have worked for you when you were younger, just doesn't work. So it's time to take some stock of what's been taking up space in your mind. Because a lot of people don't get this about their mind, that you are the owner of your mind, yet you haven't been the owner occupier of your mind for most of your life. You've let these other ideas, these other ways of thinking, these other ways of believing and being, basically living in your mind, doing what they want, and some of them haven't even been paying rent. And it's time to evict them and bring in some brand new tenants. That's brand new ideas, beliefs, identities, ways of being that actually serve you. And let's get into a little bit of that right now. So what do I mean? Because I'm sure most of you have had the experience of either being a tenant or a landlord. There's probably better terms for that, but I'm just going to go with that. really it's meant to be a really amazing arrangement between the two, right? Like think of it, and I've had experience being a landlord at times. Like I have owned a house in my past. Like it was a large house. It had more rooms than I really needed. So I would rent out a room. I think at even one point I rented out two rooms. And then at one point I didn't even want to live in the house anymore. So I briefly was an Airbnb host. And it's one of those like you do your best, especially when you're living in it, to find people that are compatible, that are gonna work with it. Yet when you're not super clear about how you work, what matters to you, or how things are gonna like actually impact you day to day, you more or less end up with some people earlier on that it's like, wait a minute, like this person's all up in my business. Like they maybe aren't paying rent on time, they're damaging things. And our thoughts, our beliefs, our views of the world can be very similar to this. And as we go along, we kind of realize, like, oh, now I think I know what matters to me, what I want, what I like. And you can get better and better tenants, better and better leasers. And so you're like, okay, Justin, like, hey, I've never owned a home. I've like, not a fan of landlords or that whole concept. And I get you. And it's okay. But think of it, it's meant to be mutually beneficial. Because when I was in the standpoint of renting the space out, it's like, oh, I get to provide somebody with a great location. Maybe it has all they need, and I get to benefit them. And then my space gets to be utilized, and what they're paying helps me take better care of the space, helps me live my life. And when it's done out of like mutual energetic exchange, it's like we're both here to provide and to serve and to make each other better off because of this relationship. It's very beautiful that way. And again, as a tenant, because I've been renting now for many years, and I just love it. I love it. Like, it was a big growth experience getting to be a landlord and being a homeowner. Yeah, there was a lot where I'm like, man, I gotta take care of all this stuff. If something breaks, I gotta call somebody to fix it if I don't know how to fix it myself. And I gotta figure out, taxes and insurance and all these. And oh my gosh, I can't just pick up and leave anytime soon. I would have to find somebody to rent the place out, or I would be losing the money, or I have to sell the thing. But as a tenant, if something breaks, I call up the management company and go, hey, this is broken. And they fix it. And if I don't want to live here anymore, I can move. Like sometimes I've been on a year lease, sometimes month to month, and it's like, okay, I've had enough of being in this location. It's time for a new location, or it's time for more bedrooms, or less bedrooms, or different bedrooms, whatever it is. There's a lot of freedom to being a renter. And there's also freedom in being somebody that rents out. Because again, it's like, oh man, I love this home. I love this property, but I can't live in it now, or I don't want to live in it now. But I want to, have it, be a steward of it, and I want to allow others to enjoy, make sure they're there, taking care of it, right? Because if nobody's there, then something happens. Like you don't know. But if somebody's there living there, they're watching your place. It's great. So these things can be great. And that's how it should be with the thoughts, the feelings, the beliefs, the identity that are taking up residency in your own mind. That they should be good tenants, and you need to be a good landlord, a good steward, a good owner of your own mind. And part of that is knowing having some good rules of like, wait, are these beliefs, are these thoughts that I'm having, are they serving me? Like and the way you're going to know what's in there is you just got to look at your life and your world. Because if you look out and you go, and you see the world is in chaos, that's something that's within you right now. You see, you believe, you think the world is in chaos, and thus you see a world in chaos. If you evict that thought, that belief, and go, no more, the new thought is the world is growing and shifting in ways that are going to benefit me and many other people. Whoa, what if that was what was taken up and renting space in your mind. That's a good tenant, right? That's a good thought. That's something that's gonna, and then when you start seeing things in the world, good example is nearby, there's a pier in Pacifica that's been damaged. It's like a 50 plus year old pier, and the waves and the surf and the things have led to the collapse of the abutment where the pier meets the shore. And sitting on that for, I think, over 30 years has been this Chit Chat Cafe, this coffee shop. And it's a place that, I've gone to, got coffee, had some good times there. And as it was collapsing, you could see started on the Thursday, they had to close the pier off. And then every day it got worse and worse. And a few days later, you started to see cracks in the cafe. And then I think it was within about 5 days, they're like, okay, we got to demolish this thing because if it goes into the ocean, it's going to be a whole environmental disaster. And many people are just like, oh my gosh, the tragedy, how awful. And I'm not saying it's not sad and it isn't something that's like sucks and it's like you wish that things could have been done better. But my take on it is like, oh, things are changing, things are shifting. What amazing things could maybe like come in this place that is even better for me, for this community, and for the world. Like, could this get redone and there ends up being more space that has, even better facilities and things to serve the people, the fishermen, the visitors, the residents, so that maybe more people can have like beautiful experiences of being like right on the ocean and getting, great coffee and great food and a great environment that's even better, right? Because those are the types of thoughts that I allow to take residency in my mind. Whereas if, the more you allow what's been there to just continue living, probably rent free, and it's been harming you, then the more your world is going to show you stuff that like, oh, it's just overwhelmed and anything I do is never enough. Because that's just something that's a made up story. And I know we've talked about beliefs, we've talked about identity, so I'm not going to get too much into that. I just really want you to start thinking about what is taking up valuable rental space in my mind and starting to just notice and being curious and being open to, am I ready to get rid of that and let it go and boot out that tenant? Because again, like it's where you want to make sure things are mutually beneficial, that it's a mutual energetic exchange. It should be good for both parties, right? Because if it's too one way, then it ends up being a harmful situation. And so the owner should be taking good care of the mind and the vessel, right? Like your body, because it doesn't matter if you have fantastic thoughts and fantastic beliefs, but you're, treating your body like garbage, then it's like these great places they don't have any ability to do anything good out in the world or with the world. And then if it's a bunch of garbage, tenants just trashing the place, then it's just going to degrade and the owner isn't going to be able to be a good owner anymore. And that's effectively a form of death. And yeah, like could be metaphorical death or could be literal physical death eventually, right? If we don't watch what we believe, then eventually it will consume us and we don't get to do what we were meant to be doing here. Because like one of the things that a lot of people wonder about is like, who am I? What am I doing here? And just that thought can sometimes be very disconcerting and can be very harmful. That's a bad tenant because I've been there. I've done that. And what if the purpose is the thought to replace that with that takes up residency in your mind is, for now, my purpose is searching for my purpose and enjoying my world while I discover and become the best version of myself that I am. Something like that. You can play with it, but something like that is really, really going to help you feel so much better in becoming who you really are and getting into your purpose, whatever that might be. and just making it more enjoyable. So I'm curious, what's coming up for you? Are you getting this concept? If you are, let me know in the comments or send a message to podcast@justinwenck.com. And I'd really love to hear what's currently taking up space in your mind that's living rent free. And if you have an idea of like what do you want to replace that with, and if you're like, I don't even know, is that okay? Can things be different? Or you don't know what it would be or how you go about it? I'm going to encourage you to reach out, justinwenck.com/connect. I think that's it. Check out one of my free tools. We got some great meditations and some great teachings. Or book some time with me, and we can I got great ways to help you identify and shift those super quick so that you can start having amazing tenants in your mind, and you can just be the happiest owner of a mind that you've experienced so far, because that's what I want for me and the people that I get to enjoy in this wonderful, beautiful world. Because I really do believe that we have a lot of great opportunities for an incredible, amazing world. Not to say that there aren't problems, not to say that there are things that are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that's happening. And depending on what beliefs, what identities we've allowed to take up residency really shifts what we make of that and then what becomes of those. Because it really is, if you see what's happening and you truly accept it and you own your part in it, and that your part really is an internal shift. Because that's one of the big things about this show and about my work is it really is about what's going on inside of you, your internal state of being. That is the most important thing. That is the gift. That is the power. I recently saw the He-Man movie. I think it's just called Masters of the Universe. It's not like I was a big He-Man fan, but I did grow up kind of in the era. Like I do remember playing with, being somewhere and it's like, oh, there's a He-Man action figure and he's got the thing on his chest that he takes a hit and oh, it spins around and his armor's been damaged. Oh my gosh. And Barbie's there and it's like He-Man and Barbie are fighting or I don't know, whatever, but because I didn't have a complete set or anything. But He-Man's thing in the cartoon is this got the sword of power, and he takes the sword and puts it over his head, and he goes, "I have the power." And my God, when he does it in the movie the first time, it's like, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool! Yay!" As my four-year-old brain gets activated. We're often thinking that the power lies outside of us, that it's something out there, that it's if something in the world changes, if somebody does something different, if I have something different, then I'll feel different. In the movie He-Man, spoiler alert, because apparently it didn't do very well. So probably most people, but again, it's still a fun movie because I mean you got Mech Neck, it's got a giant mechanical neck. You got Moss Man, who's made of moss. And then you got Fisto, who's got a giant fist and fists anything and anyone, and even fisted a goblin. And so there's a lot of fun stuff. But He-Man, who's Prince Adam, is I don't know if he's kind of like Batman, different identity, but anyway, he eventually realizes in the movie that the power was never in the sword. The power was within him all the time. He could always become that powerful individual just by choosing it, by owning it. And that's the same for you. When you recognize and own that the power is within you, you have the power. You've always had the power. You do have and will always have the power. It's just up to you to recognize it and utilize it. And that's where owning your mind and deciding who, what, and whatever gets residency, that's up to you. It is your mind and you get to choose. Just because it's been there for as long as you can remember doesn't mean it has to stay. You can boot out whatever you want, bring in whatever you want. And if you want help with that, I'm here. I love doing that stuff. I do that work for myself and I love doing that with other people. So I think with that, we're going to call this a show. Thank you so much. Definitely do, let me know what you think. What are you working on? And with that, thank you and good day.
Thanks for tuning in to Engineering Emotions and Energy with Justin Wenck, Ph.D. Today's episode resonated with you? Please subscribe and leave a 5-star review. Your feedback not only supports the show, but also helps others find us and start their journey of emotional and energetic mastery. You can also help by sharing this podcast with someone you think will love it just as much as you do. Together, we're engineering more amazing lives.